It's a well-known strategy in Kingdom Come Deliverance that the easiest way to win any melee fight is by countering an opponent's initial hit through a Master Strike and follow it up with an additional attack. Either that or we take advantage of clinching before doing the same type of complementary action. However, this game is quite huge, and solely relying on these two methods can get repetitive after a while. So if you're already confident with your combat skills, one of the things we can do to spice things up is by incorporating combinations to our repertoire. And in this video, I'll share with you everything that needs to be known about them. Let's begin. Combos are not always guaranteed to land. At any time, Master Strikes can easily break a sequence, and evasive moves have a similar effect as well. Therefore, those ones which only require 3 moves instead of 4 should be our primary choice, because it's one less link in the chain to possibly disrupt. To a smaller degree, perfect blocks can also stop them in their tracks. But because we can respond to riposts with a similar move of our own, it allows us to immediately try again. And this brings up a very important point. To have the best chance of completing combos, our first hit should be incorporated with other forms of melee attack, riposts being one of them. In our example here, I perfect blocked Captain Bernard's slash from the left side, and I responded with a cut from above, which happens to be the first move of False Edge, and continued the rest from there.
No more fooling around!
Ow!
The next thing we need to figure out is the timing of our hits, and a riposte specifically is easy to remember, because all we have to do is listen for the perfect block's impact sound, which acts as a signal on when to do it.
Ow!
This won't take long.
Coincidentally, the same timing can be applied to succeeding moves. When we hear our current strike land, do the next one.
Bollocks!
You might also be wondering about how the slash inputs should be actuated. And what I highly recommend is to simply tilt the right analog stick and press the attack button simultaneously. This works really well for the most part, and there's only one exception related to a specific combo called Blinding Strike. Its first move requires a cut from the left side, but in my experience when doing them while carrying a shield, Henry would sometimes slash in the wrong direction. In order to prevent that from happening, we must tilt the stick first before pressing the attack button. It should work as long as we do these two actions one after another. Once it connects, the following blows can be triggered at the same time as usual. Based on the comments I've read, not many players like to carry a shield, and Blinding Strike requires 4 hits, which places it on a low priority scale. But then again, it's available across all 3 types of melee weapons, so this is worth mentioning just in case you want to try. Now that we have riposts out of the way, we'll examine combos coming from Master Strikes next. As mentioned at the beginning of this video, one very popular way to deal with enemies is to Master Strike their swings and do a follow-up hit. If that's the case, then we might as well try landing an entire chain. However, the timing of our initial offense is different compared to riposts. This is due to the fact that our controls are temporarily disabled while a counterattack animation is being executed. So we need to figure out when the best time to start a sequence is. Thankfully, there's a visual clue we can use as a guide. Regardless of whichever Master Strike animation is triggered, it always ends with Henry's point of view resetting back to its default position, a signal which tells us that the character controls have been reactivated and we can start attacking. Just in case you're having trouble seeing this, What you can do is to focus your attention on one corner of the screen. Due to the simulated lens distortion, camera movement is a bit exaggerated in these parts, so it's easier to see Henry's FOV snap back into place. With a bit of practice, you probably won't even have to look at it directly anymore. Our peripheral vision will inform us as it happens. When an initial hit after a master strike lands, the timing of those that follow is similar to the technique we established earlier with ripostes. Just listen for our weapon's collision sound to determine when the next move should be. In a similar scenario, attacks from a clinch share the same type of delay. Our offensive controls are momentarily locked off while the enemy staggers backwards. Fortunately, the trick of watching Henry's view resettle also works here. There is, however, the question of how do we actually go in for a clinch, and usually it's easy enough to approach a foe when they're in close proximity. But we also have the option of sprinting towards them. We just need to refrain from doing that when it seems like the enemy is about to attack, otherwise we'll get hit on our way in. Alternatively, we can use dodging as a means to set up a clinch, because foes briefly pause afterwards every time it happens, and we can use this window to charge forwards. The only problem is, doing evasive moves while wearing heavy armor is not easy, so I can only recommend trying it out if your agility score is 15 or higher. From a weapon pushing position, there are 3 moves we can select from, which all work quite well with a longsword. But if you have a shorter weapon equipped, a pommel strike is preferable, so the opponent remains near our reach. Up until this point, most of the combos we talked about have been initiated by our opponent, but we can certainly start it off as well. Rather than relying on a normal attack, which has a high probability of being repelled in some way, we can instead sneak our first move through a feint. To demonstrate this, we'll be using Wrath Strike, which requires a cut from the left side. I pressed and held the slash button up above, and from there I moved Henry's arm to our intended direction before releasing the swing. When I saw and heard the attack was only normal blocked, I continued on to do the rest of our chain. As you can see, feinting is an easy way to start off combinations. The only limitation, as far as I can tell, is it only works with slashes, so those which start off with a thrust, such as run-through for example, will not work. Even though our main driving force behind using combinations is for the entertainment value, there's actually an objective reason as to why we should give them a shot. While it's true that they're only usable in one-on-one fights, utilizing them will make weapon-based skills level up faster, because the experience gained for those are granted on a per-hit basis. I did a simple experiment on a new save file, where I checked to see how long it would take for Henry's sword skill to advance from level 7 to 8. Just using master strikes, the process took 7 minutes and 50 seconds. But if we append the false edge combo after them, it only took 6 minutes and 42 seconds. It may not seem substantial at first, but keep in mind that as any skill level gets higher, its required experience to progress also gradually rises. So the next time you play KCD with the intention of participating in the Ratai tourney, as well as to practice with Captain Bernard, or perhaps you've whittled down a group of bandits to their last man standing, don't forget to incorporate combos into your attacks. If you need further references, there's an ongoing project consisting of a short video series which demonstrate the timings for each one of them. The links to everything that's available now are in the description, and I'll update it as new ones get published.